That is precisely why I love the water-fed pole, because all these windows here, you can stand out past all this foliage, all the garden and everything, and you can just simply clean the windows. But with something like traditional, it's going to be a lot more difficult. So in the winter here, it's not too big of a deal, but occasionally, especially in the summer when I've got to do homes traditional style, that is something you've definitely got to work around, is all the bushes and everything. So that is why I love the water-fed pole. However, you know, after using the water-fed pole for about 2 years now, I've got some complaints. People, a lot of window cleaners, what is this? Sometimes it's hard to tell what's on the inside, what's on the outside. A lot of window cleaners, they will swear by the water-fed pole. Up and down, left and right, they say it works no matter what. But I totally disagree with that. I think the water-fed pole, it's very good when it works. Let's just say that. The water-fed pole is beautiful when it works. However, there's some situations with the water-fed pole that I am not a fan of. So I do not think the water-fed pole is the be-all, end-all of window cleaning. I think there's still a huge place for traditional work. There's a huge place for pole work as well with the water-fed, and disregarding the water-fed pole. So that's a lot of times why I say that you want to have different methods of cleaning windows in your pocket. All right, so you've got the traditional, you've got the pole, you've got the ladder. I guess the pole and the ladder is traditional, but basically you want to have a few different types of ways to clean the windows. Oh man, these little giant ladders can be quite awkward to work with. So yeah, you want to have a few different ways in your back pocket to clean the windows. Relying on the water-fed pole, especially in an area, so I see these people, Steve-O, the window cleaner, and different people where they're so obsessed with the water-fed pole, but it seems like they're in an area that is very conducive to using it. And what I mean by that are several different factors. Mainly, I guess not mainly one, but mainly a couple different ones. So the first one is hardness of water in the area. So around me, it's very common to have water at, 200, 300, 400 parts per million. All right, 400, 200, 300 TDS. Different things with the water-fed pole. You're going to run into problems with your DI. You're going to have to change your filters more. Around me, there's rusty water. There's water that looks like iced tea. There is water in 200, 300, 400 pp TDS, parts per million PPS. So that is actually not very great for the water-fed pole, okay? And you will be changing your filters often. You're going to be buying more resin often. You're going to be changing out your reverse osmosis much more often. So the first point about water-fed pole is the filters. If you're in an area like me where we've got high TDS, you're going to be pretty strapped on filters. You're going to be buying more filters. You're gonna be changing out the carbon filter more. You're gonna be changing out you're gonna be changing everything more, the filters. And probably an even bigger problem with the water-fed pole. I think this is my #1 issue with the water-fed pole, and that is oxidation. That is oxidation, okay? Oxidation is the death of the water-fed pole. It breaks the water-fed pole. It destroys the water-fed pole. It makes it completely useless, okay? And people tell me, you just gotta clean the oxidation off, scrub the frames, and then be on your merry way. Hey, look, I have tried that, okay? I have tried that. I have tried it over. I've tried it over and over. And on some houses, and so let me just first off, those of you who do not know about oxidation is essentially these frames here. When they get baked in the sun, the paint starts coming off. And so these leaf blowers are coming right around. The paint actually starts coming off of these right here. And it makes it very streaky with the water-fed pole. Incredibly streaky. And so what I am talking about, this is actually a fantastic mic test because these leaf blowers are coming around. Let us just hope that you're hearing what I'm saying, because there's a lot of noise in the background, so this is a true test. So yes, the oxidation is when the frames of the windows the paint on the frames of the windows is coming off. So on this one, there is none. And how you test that is you can actually go up and wipe it with your finger, and you can see the paint that comes off on your fingers. You can also see on your squeegee, if you touch the frames, you'll be leaving a lot more white streaks and things like this. On the water-fed pole, an indicator of oxidation is that you see the paint coming off. It's dripping, it's white. So when you're using the water-fed pole, you're just using pure water, right? So what is dripping down off the windows is just gonna be pure water. It's gonna be a little bit of dirt from the windows, but it shouldn't have a color to it. So when you're scrubbing the windows, the frames and everything, and it has oxidation on it, you're gonna actually see the water turns white. It has like a grayish kind of hue to it. It turns white. And often it will stain different kind of things you're working on. So if it's dripping down onto a deck, for instance, maybe a dark deck, you'll actually very clearly see this oxidation and the paint coming down, and customers will actually become concerned about that. So that adds a layer, it actually adds a layer of work to your process, because then you have to worry about the paint that's on the decks and things like this. Even on wood decks, it'll show. So all right, the water-fed pole, oxidation. So people will tell you, hey, oxidation's no big deal. Here's how you do it. You scrub all the frames, and then you let that drip dry, and then you come back, you give a final scrub to the glass, and then you rinse down the window and you're good to go. And I bought into that for a bit, right? I bought into that. However, I had several jobs where I use this technique. I do it very carefully. I don't get water back on the frames. I scrub all the frames. I let them dry. I come back and I scrub just the glass. I don't get any water on the frames. However, it still becomes very streaky. And if you know the water-fed pole, if you've used it at all, there's these streaks, these horrible streaks that'll come down after you've cleaned the windows when they're drying. Those streaks are supposed to be pure water, however they're filled with paint. And so that will make the windows look horrible, absolutely horrible. And I haven't found any way to, it's ridiculous. So I think, and honestly, if you spend, honestly, I've spent all day at a job, a huge mansion, cleaning it with the water-fed pole. I know it's oxidized, but I have in my head Steve-O telling me, look man, it'll work out, just clean the frames. And so that's exactly what I did. But then I spent 6 to 8 hours cleaning all these windows, cleaning all the frames, and guess what? You come inside and those windows look horrible. You've just spent 8 hours cleaning these windows and they look horrible because the heavy oxidation on the glass simply kills the water-fed pole. And so, you know, and it's not just on one job. I've tried this job after job after job. And it's a very similar thing where you try to clean the windows, you're very careful with a water-fed pole, you know all the techniques, you're not doing user error, you've studied the water-fed pole, you've studied the craft, and it simply does not turn out. Oh my God, why do they lock those? That's horrible. That's horrible. Oh man. So I'd say that's the biggest blunder of the water-fed pole is oxidation. And actually, since a couple of those experiences, or a few of those experiences, because on some of those jobs I was like, man, I must just be doing something wrong. Let me go back, watch a Steve-O video. Let me try to get the technique a little bit better. It never worked. It literally never works. If it's very light oxidation, that should be fine. However, anything heavily oxidized, I would much rather do traditional than do the water-fed pole, because in your head you're saying the water-fed pole is going to be easier and it's going to be faster. But if you have to clean all the windows twice, it's really just much slower. So I've learned not to use the water-fed pole in those cases because it's just way too much work and way too much risk is the main thing. The risk of having to go back and clean all the windows again is just far too high. And honestly, you could clean a couple windows and then let them dry and see how it dries and all that stuff. You could definitely do that. But look, yeah, you could like clean a window and then like try to wait for it to dry or something. But that seems like it'll just take way too long. So what I've done now is anytime the windows are heavily oxidized, or certain types of windows, you can just tell. Sometimes these, what do you call them? Man, there's types of windows, I can't remember the name right now, but there's a type of window where the frames, maybe, I don't know, maybe the type of window doesn't actually matter, but the type of manufacturer that builds certain types of frames, as well as the house, and what windows are baking in the sun. Maybe the whole house bakes in the sun. All right, and these windows are 25 years old. All right, and they haven't been changed. There's never been any oxidation removal on them. I would actually love to see a Steve-O video where he could get those windows clean without any streaks, without any, yeah, just get them to look good. Because in my experience, it's next to impossible with oxidation to get them to look good with the water-fed pole. So, look, that's that's my experience here, and maybe people have different experience, but I'd say in a situation like mine, where you've got these houses might be mansions, they might be very old with lots of oxidation on them, you're gonna look like an idiot, and I have looked like an idiot, cleaning all the windows for 6 to 8 hours. And then you come inside, none of the windows look good. The customer's like, are you an idiot? Like, what are you even doing here? Why did I even hire you? Is what the customer is thinking. Or they might even tell you that straight up, which I've been told. They're like I knew it was bad, but just wanted to let you do your thing. So I've basically just learned that you want to check out the windows before you start. And if they have heavy oxidation, you either want to set something in the contract where if you have to use the water-fed pole, you can warn them that, hey, there's a lot of oxidation. It makes it extremely difficult to clean the windows. And you've requested that I clean your windows with a water-fed pole. I can do what I can do, and maybe they'll be a lot better, but maybe they won't be perfect. So you can kind of warn the customers about that, but a lot of times, I mean, the customer is not hired you to come to their house and complain about their water or their frames, okay? They've hired you to come clean the windows, and they want clean windows. So I don't think they usually care what method you use. Some people do, because some people have had bad experiences with the water-fed pole, and they say, hey, my last window cleaner used the water-fed pole, and he did not do a good job. Occasionally, they're misinformed, and everything's gonna look great. It was just user error. It was a bad window cleaner, you know, that sort of thing. But it's not something that they want to be like, you sit them there and you start explaining all this advanced water-fed pole technique and, oh, your frames are oxidized. I would just examine the windows beforehand, charge appropriately, bring your ladders if you need to, pull in the double hung windows if you need to. Yeah, and then you don't got to deal with all that. The potential for losing a client, the potential for having terrible windows or terrible looking windows after you clean them, all the frustration that comes along with that. It's much better to just do something you know is going to work and then work on that. So yeah, and honestly, in my experience, the water-fed pole is not a whole lot faster, and sometimes it's even slower, okay? Look, I'm not a water-fed pole hater. I've got a water-fed pole. I think they're actually great. I think they're niche, though. They're not, honestly, it's not like my main gig, right? It's something I use alongside my other methods, okay? So if all the windows are able to be pulled in from the inside, hey, that might be a better deal than going and setting up the water-fed pole and then finding out there's oxidation and you've got to re-clean all the windows anyways. Look, it might be a better gig just to do them traditional, because you know for a fact that that's going to work, all right? So, oh man. So just keep that in mind when you're using the water-fed pole. Look, and I'm not a water-fed pole hater. Especially on jobs and clients that I've done many, many times. I love the water-fed pole because it works great and it's pretty fast. It keeps me off of ladders. And I think that's the main thing is staying off of ladders. People say the water-fed pole is faster, but I don't think it is, especially if there's like literally any hard matter on the windows. The water-fed pole just doesn't get it, right? Even when you have a porous hair brush, you could put on an attachment like a scrub pad attachment. However, that starts getting the water-fed pole extremely bulky and extremely awkward. If you've got a bunch of different attachments on the end of a pole that you're then extending out 20, 30, 40, maybe not 40 feet, but at least 20 or 30 feet away from your body, and you're trying to manipulate it, that's a recipe for crazy fatigue. That's a recipe for not being very exact. As well, this is like super in-depth, and if you don't know about water-fed poles, you're going to be lost on a lot of this. But with these attachments, so basically the water-fed pole is a brush on the end of a telescoping pole that you extend out. It shoots pure water out the end, so you scrub the window with the brush and then rinse it all down with the pure water. And you don't need to squeegee anything off, and it comes out clean once it dries because it's just pure water. There's nothing to leave streaks. There's no minerals or deposits to leave marks or anything on the windows. So with these attachments you can buy, it can eliminate the problem of like hard matter on the windows. Like a bird runs into the windows, that's a classic example. Or perhaps there's just bird dew on the windows, or the windows have just different, you know, some people they've got bird feeders and stuff outside their windows where like there's like berries and stuff on the windows that are hard stuck on there, and like seeds and stuff from the birds. If you've got windows like that, your water-fed pole is not going to do crap against that, all right? Even with the scrub pad on there, because a scrub pad at the end of a pole that's 30 feet out in front of you is going to have way less force. You're going to be able to apply way less pressure than if your hand was just right on the window, or you had some sort of little adapter or little like handle that you can really get in there and scrub with one of these. I've actually got a handle where this sticks to it, and then you can use the handle and scrub the window, and that works very well. You can apply a lot of pressure onto the scrub pad. But with a water-fed pole, that's not going to work because you can't apply quite as much pressure because it's on the end of a pole rather than right in your hand. And actually, as I say that, that might not be completely true, but I have noticed even with the scrub pad, it's very difficult to get all the bird stuff off the windows, just straight up.